The round barely missed Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb's skull by 3 inches. He experienced the sharp crack of the bullet breaking the sound barrier, then heard the boom a split second later. Shattered concrete exploded from the wall behind him. Before his brain could catch up, 2 more teammates collapsed, one grabbing his arm, another taking a hit through an opening in his protective vest. Everyone scrambled for cover as the shout rang out. Their vehicles had paused for a standard safety inspection in what was supposed to be a secure area. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a deadly zone, getting picked off by skilled shooters from spots they couldn't even locate. Hostile gunfire came from rooftops and hilltops, completely invisible to them. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez pressed himself flat against the armored truck, yelling coordinates into his communication device, while trying to shrink his body as small as possible. Another bullet ricocheted off the metal door right near his head. The team fired back without clear targets, trying to suppress enemies they couldn't identify. This was the nightmare situation that ended with casualties and medals given to families. Enemy marksmen were systematically taking them apart from hidden spots, while the Americans wasted bullets shooting at ghosts. Webb grabbed his radio, voice desperate. A voice interrupted from behind him. Claire Thompson, the civilian supply coordinator they'd been transporting, stood there carrying what should have been a case for measuring instruments. But the case was now open, revealing a weapon that definitely wasn't for surveying land. Webb yelled at her to take cover, warning she'd get herself killed. Another teammate screamed as a bullet slipped between his helmet and vest. Blood splattered everywhere while the medic crawled toward him. Claire showed no fear. She lifted the weapon from the case with movements so fluid they seemed practiced 1,000 times. Components clicked together in her hands with mechanical perfection. Within seconds, scattered pieces became a complete rifle that looked more expensive than their entire convoy. Webb started to question her, but she was already moving. She dropped flat onto the truck's hood. The rifle pressed against her shoulder, her eye lined up with the scope, breathing perfectly controlled. She called out the distance to the first target, noted the wind speed and direction, then announced she was engaging. The suppressed rifle fired once, far away on a rooftop they hadn't even spotted as dangerous. An enemy marksman fell backward, dead before the sound reached him. She calmly stated the first target was down and 7 remained. She assured the commander this would take roughly 15 minutes while working the bolt and loading another round. Webb stared in disbelief, his mind struggling to understand what was happening. The quiet contractor who'd spent 3 days reviewing paperwork and making polite conversation was now operating a precision rifle, hitting targets his trained specialists couldn't even find. He demanded to know who she really was. Claire's scope moved to a window over 900 meters away, where a muzzle flash had just given away another shooter's position. Her finger pressed the trigger. The rifle kicked back. The muzzle flash disappeared. She announced the second target down and worked the bolt again, smooth as breathing. She told him she was someone about to save his team, then politely asked him to stop talking because she needed to focus. Another shot rang out. Another enemy eliminated from a spot the team hadn't detected. Third target eliminated. Rodriguez stared at her, then at Webb, then back at the woman who was methodically destroying their ambush with the casual efficiency of someone processing routine documents. He asked what was happening. Webb told him he had no idea but ordered everyone to shut up and let her continue. Claire's rifle tracked to the 4th position. Through her magnified view, she could see the enemy shooter realizing his partners were dropping. Panic setting in as he tried to move. 4th target eliminated. The incoming fire was slowing down. The enemy was starting to understand they weren't hunting anymore. They were being hunted by someone invisible, someone superior, someone killing them faster than they could respond. 5th target eliminated. Webb watched in amazement as Claire operated. Nothing wasted. No hesitation. Just smooth, professional, lethal precision. Locate target, measure, fire, confirm, elimination. Move to next target. Like a machine performing exactly what it was designed to do, because that's exactly what this was. 6th target eliminated. 2 more shots followed, 2 more enemy marksmen dead. The ambush that had been killing his people a minute ago was collapsing. The heavy enemy fire had ceased. The team was no longer pinned down, and all because a woman they'd dismissed as civilian baggage had just taken out 8 professional enemy shooters in less time than it took to request backup. She announced all targets eliminated and the threat removed. She told the commander he could now move his wounded to safer position. She said it like she'd just completed an item on her checklist. Eliminate 8 enemy snipers, done. What's the next task? Webb found his voice and asked who she was. Claire started disassembling her rifle, pieces disappearing back into the case with the same mechanical efficiency they'd appeared. She explained she was the person headquarters embedded in this convoy without his knowledge. Her designation was Artemis, and they needed to leave immediately because enemy backup was likely coming. She'd explain everything once they reached the forward operating base. She closed the equipment case and looked at him with calm eyes that were far too composed for someone who'd just been in combat. She added that for the official report, he'd say his own team eliminated the threats. Her name wouldn't appear anywhere. He needed to understand that. Webb protested, but her voice remained polite while her eyes turned hard. They were the eyes of someone who'd done this repeatedly, someone who'd built a career appearing vulnerable until the precise moment she wasn't. Webb looked at his wounded teammates receiving medical care. He looked at the woman who'd saved them. He looked at the quiet village where 8 enemy marksmen now lay dead, killed by a civilian contractor who wasn't actually civilian and definitely wasn't just a contractor. He finally agreed but told her she owed him a serious explanation. She promised to provide one after they escaped the danger zone. She ordered him to move his team immediately. They had 3 kilometers to the base, and every hostile fighter in the area just heard that battle. The team was about to discover that the quiet woman with the equipment case had been hunting enemy shooters in this region for 3 years, had 73 confirmed eliminations they'd never known about, and the ambush they'd just survived was actually set up for her. 8 enemy marksmen sent specifically to kill the phantom they called Artemis, and in those next 15 minutes of fighting, she just demonstrated exactly why she'd earned that reputation. Claire Thompson was a phantom. That's what they called snipers like her in the classified world where such people officially didn't exist. Born in Montana to a hunting guide father and mathematics professor mother, she could calculate wind effects and bullet paths before she could legally draw. She competed in distance shooting competitions at 16, winning national championships at 18. The Army recruiter at her high school saw potential. The special operations recruiter at her college saw something entirely different. She'd spent 8 years in a program without a name, operating under false identities, embedded in locations where America needed problems solved from extreme distances. She'd taken shots in 14 countries, 73 confirmed eliminations, all of them people who needed removing, all from positions where she'd never been seen or suspected. Today she was Claire Thompson, logistics coordinator. Last month she'd been Sarah Mitchell, medical researcher in Pakistan. Before that, Emma Chen, photojournalist in Syria. She maintained 12 identities, 14 passports, and a flawless record. 0 exposed covers, 0 failed operations, 0 teammates lost. But this mission was different. This time, someone knew her real identity. The intelligence had been precise. 8 hostile marksmen, elite shooters trained by former Soviet instructors, had been positioned specifically to intercept this convoy. Not for the team, for her. Someone had leaked her true identity and actual mission. Now the enemy knew that the woman in civilian clothing was the sniper who'd been eliminating their leadership for 3 years. They wanted her dead, and they'd arranged the perfect trap to make it happen. Claire glanced at her equipment case, plain gray plastic, labeled survey equipment. Inside was her rifle, a custom Winchester Magnum with high-end optics, suppressor support stand, and 20 rounds of specially prepared ammunition she'd loaded herself. Also inside were measurement tools, weather instruments, calculation devices, and a small notebook filled with data from dozens of previous missions. The team had inspected the case at base camp. They'd seen survey equipment, laser rangefinders, measuring devices, positioning units. They hadn't recognized that every piece of survey gear was actually precision shooting equipment, because why would they? She was a civilian supply coordinator. Civilians didn't carry sniper rifles. The driver announced they were 5 minutes from the valley. Claire's pulse remained steady. She'd trained for this, controlled her breathing, mastered the technique. Her instructor at the program had drilled it into her. You're not a soldier, you're a surgeon. Soldiers fight. Surgeons operate clean, precise, nothing wasted. She pulled out her phone, appearing to check messages but actually accessing the satellite feed. 8 red markers now showed precise coordinates and height data. The shooters were positioned perfectly, overlapping firing zones, interlocking coverage, escape routes planned. Whoever positioned them understood tactics, convoy procedures, exactly how to eliminate everyone in these vehicles. But they'd made one mistake. They'd assumed Claire wouldn't know they were there. They'd assumed she'd be trapped like everyone else. They'd assumed incorrectly. The valley opened ahead like a wound in the landscape. Steep hills flanked both sides. A single dirt road wound through the bottom. The ideal spot for an ambush, narrow enough that vehicles couldn't maneuver, steep enough that dismounting and attacking uphill would take time, long enough that once committed, there was no turning back. Webb expressed his discomfort scanning the ridgelines through binoculars. Too quiet, too perfect. One teammate asked if they should launch their small reconnaissance drone. Webb agreed, wanting aerial surveillance of those hills before committing. The drone launched from the lead vehicle, a small electric aircraft that climbed rapidly, its camera feeding live video to tablets in each truck. The team studied the feeds, searching for threats, anything unusual. They didn't spot the shooters. The enemy positions were too sophisticated, natural hiding spots, perfectly camouflaged, invisible to heat imaging, because they'd been in position since before sunrise, their body heat absorbed into the cold earth. Claire saw them not on the team's drone feed, but on her own satellite imagery, 8 positions now with additional information: distance to road, height angles, probable weapon systems, estimated skill level. She did the calculations automatically. 8 shooters, 6 vehicles, 12 teammates, 1 primary target. Her. If they executed properly, the ambush would last 90 seconds. The team would mostly survive. Body armor, training, defensive tactics would save most, but casualties were guaranteed. And in the chaos, while the team dealt with multiple threats from multiple directions, she'd be exposed unless she acted first. She quietly told Webb she needed to speak with him privately. Immediately. He turned, surprised by the sudden intensity. He said whatever it was could wait. They were about to enter potentially hostile terrain. She told him 8 enemy shooters were positioned in those hills, waiting to ambush this convoy, and if they didn't act in the next 3 minutes, people were going to die. The vehicle went silent. Every team member turned to stare. Rodriguez asked how she could possibly know that. Claire removed her reading glasses, and met Webb's eyes with a look that was no longer civilian, no longer cover, nothing but absolutely professional. She explained she wasn't a logistics coordinator. She was the asset headquarters was told would be in this convoy. Her designation was Artemis, and she was about to break her cover to save his team, so she needed him to trust her for 15 minutes. After that they could have whatever conversation he wanted. Webb stared. 10 seconds passed. He'd been in special operations long enough to recognize truth, no matter how unusual it sounded. He told her to show him. Claire pulled out the tablet, no longer hiding what she was viewing. The satellite feed showed perfect detail. 8 positions, precise coordinates, real-time update. She indicated the 4 on the northern ridge as the primary threat, positioned to hit lead and rear vehicles first, disable the convoy, then work the middle. The 3 on the southern ridge were secondary, creating crossfire to prevent dismounting and maneuvering. The one at the valley entrance was the spotter coordinator, running the ambush. The team crowded around the tablet, professional skepticism, fighting with what they were seeing. Webb asked if this was real-time intelligence. She confirmed 30-second updates. She'd been tracking them since they left base. They'd been in position for 6 hours. They were professionals, some of the best shooters in the region, and they weren't there for his team. They were there for her. Rodriguez asked why. She explained that over 3 years she'd eliminated 42 high-value targets in this region. Commanders, foreign fighters, bomb makers, sniper trainers, the people killing American soldiers and Marines. Someone leaked her identity to them. This was revenge. Rodriguez whistled quietly, calling her a covert sniper. She clarified she was the sniper that officially didn't exist, and right now she was the only person in this convoy who could stop this ambush from becoming a massacre. Webb made his decision. 20 years in special operations had taught him to trust his instincts, and every instinct said this woman was telling the truth. He asked what she needed. Her equipment case, time to set up, and these vehicles to stop exactly where she instructed. There was one position in this valley where she could establish oversight on all 8 targets. She'd need 8 minutes to get into position and 7 minutes to engage. 15 minutes total. Webb asked if she was going to take on 8 enemy shooters alone. Claire's smile was cold. She corrected him. She was going to eliminate 8 enemy shooters. There's a difference. They'd provide security and watch her back. She'd do what she was trained to do. Webb radioed all vehicles to hold position and not enter the valley. They had confirmed intelligence on enemy position. The convoy stopped. Team members dismounted, establishing defensive positions, confused but professional. Webb pulled Claire aside as she opened her equipment case, starting to question her credibility. She interrupted. She wasn't lying. She pulled out what the team had thought was a survey laser rangefinder. In her hands it transformed. Collapsed sections extended, pieces clicked together, and suddenly she held a rifle that looked more expensive than the truck. She stated she was Artemis. This was her job, and they had 14 minutes before the enemy realized they'd stopped and adjusted positions. Respectfully, she needed to move now. Claire moved through the broken terrain with fluid efficiency of someone who'd done this hundreds of times. The team followed, providing security but staying back, letting her work. She'd stripped off the business casual outer layer, revealing underneath clothing that matched the terrain. Her movements were economical, professional, nothing wasted. She reached a rocky outcrop 300 meters from the road, elevated 20 meters with clear sight lines to 7 of the 8 enemy positions. The 8th would require repositioning, but she'd handle that. She announced this was the position and began setting up. The rifle assembled with practiced precision. Support deployed, lens covers removed, rangefinder out measuring distances to each target, weather instrument checking wind temperature, humidity, calculator receiving data, providing firing solutions. The team watched in fascination. This was masterclass craft, fast but not rushed, efficient but not careless. Every movement had purpose. She talked to herself, running calculations, checking data from her notebook, making corrections. Rodriguez whispered that she was measuring all 8 positions simultaneously. Webb nodded. He'd worked with sniper teams before. Usually they'd spend an hour establishing position, another hour measuring targets, maybe take 1 or 2 shots in a day. Claire was planning to engage 8 targets in 7 minutes. It was either brilliant or suicidal. She told Webb that in approximately 30 seconds, the enemy spotter would radio his shooters that they'd stopped. They'd start repositioning, trying to understand why they didn't enter the kill zone. That's when she needed to engage. Once she fired the first shot, they'd know someone was counterattacking. They'd start searching for her. She needed his team to make noise, draw attention, make them think the threat was down there, not up here. Webb agreed to light them up with suppressive fire, keeping them focused on the team. She said that was perfect, then added one more thing. She looked up with calm eyes and said when this was over, she'd need him to pretend he never met her. Artemis didn't exist. This never happened. His official report would say they encountered enemy shooters and eliminated them with precision fire from their own team. Did he understand? He asked who she really was. She replied she was someone trying to keep American service members alive, and that's all that mattered. She settled back behind the scope. Claire Thompson, civilian logistics coordinator, disappeared completely. In her place was something else, focused, deadly, absolutely professional. Artemis had entered the fight. Through the magnified view, the first target appeared with perfect clarity. A hostile sniper, late 30s, weathered face, veteran of decades of conflict. He was positioned behind a boulder on the northern ridge, rifle propped on a rest made of stacked rocks, scanning the valley through his scope, wondering why the American convoy had stopped. Claire's breathing slowed. Her heartbeat dropped. The world narrowed to the circle of her scope, the crosshairs hovering steady on center mass. She didn't think about the person, his story, his family, his reasons. That was a luxury soldiers had. She wasn't a soldier, she was a solution to a problem. The problem was 8 shooters about to kill Americans. The solution was 8 precisely placed rounds. First pressure on the trigger, stock firm against her shoulder, breathing stopped at natural pause. The shot surprised even her the way all perfect shots do. The rifle kicked back smoothly. The suppressor reduced the sound to a sharp crack instead of thunderous boom, but in the valley's acoustics, it was still audible. Far away, the first hostile sniper dropped without sound, never knowing what happened. She announced first target down, already transitioning to target 2. Bolt action smooth, new round chambered, find the target, slight adjustment for distance. The second shooter was starting to react, confused by the sound, looking around, trying to identify the threat. Claire's crosshairs settled on his chest. Breath, pause, squeeze. Second target down. 8 seconds from first shot to second. Webb ordered suppressive fire. The team opened up with rifles and machine guns, sending rounds toward enemy positions, not trying to hit anything, just making noise, making the enemy think the threat was from the convoy, not from an elevated position far away. Target 3 was smart. He'd gone flat, reducing his profile, starting to scan for the counter sniper. Claire found him through the scope, partial view, only his head and shoulders visible behind cover. Harder shot, less margin for error, but still within capability. The bullet found him anyway. Clean hit. He went still. 3 down in 23 seconds. Target 4 had figured it out. He'd spotted her position, was swinging his rifle toward her. Claire saw him through her scope at the same moment he saw her through his. A duel of snipers, both locked on target, both about to fire. She was fast. Her shot broke a fraction of a second before his. His bullet snapped past her head close enough to hear, hitting rock behind her position. Her bullet hit center mass. He pitched backward. Rodriguez shouted that she was taking fire. Webb ordered everyone to hold position and let her work. 4 down, 58 seconds elapsed. 4 to go on the northern ridge, but now she needed to transition to the southern ridge, which meant repositioning. Claire rolled left, moving to a new position. The enemy would have marked her last location from muzzle flash and sound. Never shoot twice from the same spot when enemy shooters are trying to find you. Target 5 was on the southern ridge. Harder angle, partially obscured by vegetation. Claire adjusted her position slightly, shifting the rifle, finding a gap in the foliage. The hostile sniper on the southern ridge was smart. He'd gone static, minimizing his profile, using cover effectively. Claire could only see portions of him, an elbow here, a section of rifle there, a slice of torso behind a rock. Patience. She'd been trained for wait for the target to make a mistake, to shift position, to expose himself for just a moment. 5 seconds, 10, 15, there. He moved his rifle slightly, adjusting his aim toward where he thought she was. The movement exposed his upper chest for 3 seconds. Claire took the shot in 2. Her bullet covered the distance, and found the exposed section. The sniper jerked backward, and didn't move again. 5 down, 2 minutes 18 seconds elapsed. Target 6 was already relocating, having watched 5 partners drop and realized they were being systematically eliminated. Smart move. Claire tracked him through the scope as he crawled away from his original position toward a secondary hiding spot. Moving target, harder but not impossible. She led him slightly, calculating movement speed, trajectory, wind. The shot would have to be perfect. He was moving perpendicular to her position, and the mathematical part of her brain that her mother had given her ran the calculations automatically. She fired. The bullet intercepted his movement. He stopped crawling permanently. 6 down, 3 minutes 40 seconds. Webb called out 2 left on the northern ridge, and 1 at the valley entrance. Her spotter coordinator. He'd figured out what she was doing, could track which positions had gone silent. She replied she saw them, already transitioning back to the northern ridge. Target 7 was the smartest yet. He'd abandoned his original position entirely, and was setting up somewhere new. She'd have to find him first. There, muzzle flash. He'd taken a shot at the team position, revealing himself for just a moment. Claire's scope swept to the flash location. Longer shot. She could make. Target 7 was a professional. He'd fired and immediately started to relocate, knowing that muzzle flash would give him away, but he wasn't fast enough. Claire's bullet found him mid-movement. 7 down, 5 minutes 55 seconds. 1 shooter left on the northern ridge, before she had to deal with the spotter coordinator at the valley entrance, who by now had figured out his entire ambush was falling apart and was probably calling for backup or planning escape. Target 8 was not being cooperative. He'd learned from watching 7 teammates die. He was static, in perfect cover, only the smallest part of his rifle barrel visible. Claire couldn't get a shot on his body, but she could see his scope, a small circular reflection of glass catching sunlight. High risk. If she missed the scope and hit the rock near it, the bullet could fragment, could ricochet, could go anywhere. But if she hit the scope, the bullet would pass through and continue into the shooter's eye socket and brain. Target approximately 4 inches in diameter. Claire's instructor's voice echoed in her head. Sometimes you can't get the shot you want, so you take the shot you can make and trust your training. She trusted her training. The shot was perfect. The scope shattered. The hostile sniper behind it dropped instant. Rodriguez whispered that she just shot through his scope. 8 down, 7 minutes 23 seconds. But there was still one more. The commander at the valley entrance. Claire shifted her position, repositioning to get an angle on the final target. The spotter coordinator was the smartest of them all. He'd watched his entire team get eliminated in 7 minutes, and made the correct tactical decision: escape. Claire spotted him through her scope, already 500 meters away and moving fast, heading for a vehicle hidden in a ravine. Target moving at approximately 4 meters per second. This was the hardest shot of the day. Long range, moving target, variable wind, shooting downhill, which affected bullet trajectory in complex ways. Webb said he was getting away. Claire replied calmly that he was. She'd made shots like this before. Not often. This was at the edge of even her capabilities, but she'd trained for it, prepared for it, done it enough times to know it was possible. She watched the runner through her scope, calculating his speed, his heading, the wind's effect over the distance. Her calculator gave her the firing solution, but at this range with these variables, the calculator was just a starting point. Experience and instinct finished the equation. She watched him run, breathing controlled, pulse steady. The math resolved into certainty. The shot broke cleanly. The bullet traveled for over 2 seconds, an eternity in shooting time. Claire watched through the scope as the runner took 3 more steps, then suddenly pitched forward, tumbling into the dirt, dead before he heard the shot that killed him. She quietly announced target down. All hostile shooters eliminated. Time, 8 minutes 37 seconds. The valley was silent except for the wind and the distant sound of the team's suppressive fire stopping. 8 hostile marksmen eliminated in less than 9 minutes by one woman they'd never seen come. Claire secured her rifle and began breaking down her position. She told the commander she needed 15 minutes to clean this site, remove any evidence she was here, then they could continue to the forward operating base. His official report would state that his own team eliminated 8 enemy shooters in a counter-operation. Her name didn't appear anywhere. Webb agreed but stared at her, asking who she really was. She replied she was someone who didn't exist and needed to stay that way. The convoy reached the base 3 hours later without further incident. Claire had transformed back into the logistics coordinator, business casual, reading glasses, tablet showing supply information. The equipment case was once again labeled survey equipment, the rifle broken down and hidden among legitimate surveying tools. The team said nothing. Webb had briefed them. This never happened. They'd encountered enemy shooters, eliminated them with precision fire from their own capabilities, continued to base. Standard operation. But as Claire stepped out of the truck at the base, Rodriguez approached quietly. He asked about that scope shot. How long did it take her to learn to shoot like that? Claire glanced at him. 8 years of training, 73 previous operations, 10,000 hours of practice, and one very good instructor, who taught her that the only difference between a good sniper and a great one is being willing to take the shot everyone else says is impossible. He thanked her for saving them back there. She replied they were never in danger. She was the target. They were just in the way, but she appreciated the sentiment. She walked toward the headquarters building, tablet in hand, looking every inch the civilian contractor she was pretending to be. The team watched her go. Webb said quietly that she was the most dangerous person he'd ever met. Rodriguez agreed. 8 enemy shooters in 8 minutes, moving targets, long range, variable conditions. He'd been working with specialists for 20 years, and never seen anything like that. And she did it like she was filing paperwork. He asked if they'd ever see her again. Webb replied he hoped not. People like that only appear when things are about to go very badly wrong, and he'd prefer things to stay boring. 3 months later, Claire sat in a coffee shop in Istanbul, supposedly on vacation, actually waiting for her next assignment. Her phone buzzed. Encrypted message from the program director. New tasking. Location Syria. Target package 12 enemy shooters, foreign trained, dug in around a major city. Special operations team requesting specific support. They heard about the operation through unofficial channels. Team leader specifically asked for that civilian contractor, who doesn't exist. Mission counter sniper support for hostage rescue. Timeline, 72 hours. Accept or decline. Claire smiled. Teams talked even when they weren't supposed to, especially when they'd witnessed something that impressed them. She typed back her acceptance and asked what her cover identity was this time. The response came, photojournalist, documentation attached. You're covering the refugee crisis. Camera bag will contain usual equipment, plus your rifle system. Local contact will meet you at airport. She acknowledged understanding and stated she was moving to target area. She closed the laptop and finished her coffee. Somewhere in Syria, 12 enemy shooters were setting up positions around a building where American hostages were being held. They thought they were professionals. They thought they could stop a rescue operation. They didn't know about Artemis. They didn't know that in approximately 72 hours, a woman with auburn hair and calm eyes and a gift for mathematics and shooting would be calculating wind effects and bullet paths and turning 12 threatening targets into 12 eliminated problems. The team didn't know she was a sniper until she eliminated 8 targets in 15 minutes. Soon 12 more enemy shooters would learn the same lesson. Too bad they wouldn't survive to share the knowledge. Classified after-action report. Operation Artemis Overwatch. Location Afghanistan. Date. Redacted. Mission summary. Asset Artemis successfully neutralized 8 enemy sniper positions, supporting convoy transit through hostile territory. All targets eliminated within 8 minutes, 37 seconds. 0 friendly casualties. Mission success 100%. Tactical analysis. Enemy positions represented highest level threat encountered in region in 18 months. Intelligence suggests targets were specifically tasked with eliminating Artemis, indicating cover may have been compromised. Recommend immediate identity rotation and 30-day stand-down for asset security reassessment. Team leader comments, unofficial. Whatever you're paying that woman, double it. She just saved 12 American lives and made it look easy. I've worked with the best specialists in the command. She's better, and I never want to meet the enemy who trained her because that person is terrifying. Artemis debrief notes. 8 targets. Moderate difficulty. Weather conditions favorable. Team professional and adapted well to cover compromise. No injuries sustained. Equipment performed to standard. Recommend continued operations with special operations support when available. They're good at staying out of the way and letting me work. Ready for next tasking. Program Director Assessment. Asset Artemis continues to perform at exceptional level. 73 confirmed eliminations. 0 compromised operations. 0 friendly casualties. Recommend continued deployment in high-value target counter-sniper operation. Asset has proven particularly effective supporting special operations forces, who initially underestimate her capabilities and are subsequently impressed enough to maintain operational security.
the best cover is often the truth. She doesn't look like a threat until the moment she eliminates 8 enemies in 9 minutes. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring tales of courage.